Let's get started. All right, this meeting of the Sedona Fire District shall come to order. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A moment of silence for the firefighters and police officers who passed since our last meeting.
Yes, let's take a time to reflect on the 7 police officers and 5 firefighters that have passed.
Thank you. Ms. Willis, do we have any public comment?
Do not.
All right. We are going to table the September 17th, 2024 regular and executive session meeting minutes to the next meeting. Okay. Financial report and updates. Do we have Gabe on the phone?
Should be Sarah.
Sarah?
Hello, Sarah.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon or good evening, almost there. In your board packet, you will find the September 2024 monthly financials. Just going through. Yes.
Hey, it's Ed. Could you do like a short intro? We've got our 2 new board members here just so they know who you are. Just a quick.
No problem. My name is Sarah Simonton. I work for James Vincent Group. I've worked for James Vincent Group for about 6 years now, under Gabe. And you are one of my clients that I support. So normally you get Gabe, but when he has conflicts, you'll have me present instead. So
Thank you.
no problem. Okay, so just going through our September financials, our tax revenue came in a little bit over budget. We were at $284,000 compared to a budget of $259,000. So we were over budget for the month of September by $24,000. That really is just timing. When we budget our monthly revenue for tax levy, we look at a 3-year history of what we collect each month. As most of you know, we get a large property tax collection in the October-November timeframe and then April-May timeframe. So we do see some trickling in coming in the other months as well, but no issues there. It's just a timing issue with September, and we anticipate seeing a pretty good number come in for October. Non-tax levy revenue, so that's everything other than tax revenue. So that's our ambulance and wildland billings, those types of things. So non-tax levy revenue for the month of September, we had $514,000 come in, compared to a budget of about $335,000. So that's significantly over budget. All of that's really driven by increased ambulance revenue, as well as we had some large wildland revenue come in from the state. So good news there. Moving into the expenses, and you can see our 5 major categories there. Our largest, of course, is personnel. Personnel, we came in right at budget. I don't know how you can get better than $62 compared to budget, but we came in right at budget at $1.4 million. There is some time is some changes within there, within that accounts grouping. We had some favorability in our salaries and wages, and then over budget in our wildland wages, and that's just because we are still out on wildland assignments. The good news is that we'll start to see more revenue come in. So again, no issues with that overage. It's a good thing for the district. Buildings and land, getting into some of our smaller categories of cost. Buildings and land was over budget by about $5,000. That's really related to some purchases of janitorial and station supplies, as well as some building repair and maintenance costs. Vehicles and equipment is under budget by about $39,000 for the month of September. That's mostly timing. We did see some decline or decrease in our EMS supplies, as well as our PP&E. But if you look at when we get to our year-to-date numbers, you'll kind of see that a little bit, the EMS supplies kind of level out. We're slightly under budget on our communications and IT by about 7,000. That's just again related to timing of our licensing coming in. And then our managerial is under budget by about 38,000. And that's across the board on all different types of costs. For the big drivers, they're mostly in our travel and training. To our September year-to-date numbers. So here you can see this is our July, August, and September all rolled into the PowerPoint here. So our total revenue was 1.6 million compared to a 1.4 million budget. So again, over budget by about 242,000. Most of that is really driven by some increase in our ambulance revenue. We're slightly over in our wildland. As I mentioned in our September, we saw a really good wildland revenue number come in, but that we didn't see as much come in the earlier parts of the year. So that's just kind of leveling off. And then also we have some really good interest earnings on the money that we're making on interest in the bank. Total expenses for year to date, we're at 5.5 million, which is under budget by about 400,000. We had a budget of about 5.9 million. So good story there. We're continuing to manage our costs. You can see there are major categories of costs again, with personnel being our largest. We are under budget by about 229,000 year to date, again, driven by some savings in our salaries and wages offset with wildland. You can see our buildings and land is under budget by about 6,000. Our vehicles and equipment is under budget by about 83. Communications and IT is under budget by about 15,000. And then our managerial is under budget by about 69,000. So again, great news story with our revenue being up over budget and then our expenses being under budget. This is our year-to-date expenses. So we look to try to be around that 25% with three months in so far. So we're right at that at 24%. So good there. And then looking at our percentage of expenses, type of expenses. So again, personnel being our largest expense, so it's at 84% of our cost, with our operations at 6% and communications and managerial are both at 5%. And then finally, our cash position. We ended the month of September at $15.6 million in the bank for cash, compared to this time last year of about 11.6. So again, seeing that increase in revenue that we saw last year, as well as continuing on this year, as well as continuing to manage our expenses, has been really well for the district. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Are there any questions?
I think just a comment that it's wonderful to see numbers in the right direction, as they usually are, but especially so this month. So thank you.
Sarah, I have one quick question for you, and it really relates to the size of the jump, the difference in the cash this year versus last. That just seems, I know we've been very frugal and careful and the revenues come in, but that seems like a really big difference.
It is a big difference. A lot of it also has to attribute to the fact that because we're doing so well in managing our expenses and seeing that increase in revenue, we also are seeing a good interest earnings with our interest rates being as high as they've been over the last couple of years. We're just increasing that money that we're making on interest as well. I don't necessarily think that's going to continue with everything that's going on in the world and within political aspects for this year, but we do see some favorability there. I can definitely provide in the next board packet kind of a walk of what's driven that increase year over year, if that would help the district as well.
It just seems large, but your explanation is good. Just thank you.
No problem.
So Chief Coyle, over to you and your staff.
All right, so Madam Chair, members of the board, I am Jordan, Buzz, and Coyle tonight. And I'll explain why. Chief Coyle is at the annual Wildland Fire Leadership conference in Flagstaff, and there's a whole bunch of fancy people as keynotes, the assistant under director of Department of Ag and a bunch of stuff. And I did ask them, what are some of the big topic areas, and if homeowners insurance is getting any leverage yet at the state and federal level. And it is absolutely a topic of discussion, and it's something that's really been on my radar. You know, we've been frequenting calls about people getting dropped, and it's happening all over the state. But as you know, last year I asked about it with the state Department of Forestry and Fire Management, and they kind of said, "Oh, look over there," you know, this, and nobody was talking about the fact that we're getting insurance dropped. So I'm glad that it's becoming a topic of discussion. I think the hurricane activity is definitely going to drive that conversation too, because insurers are scrambling. Buzz is in Mesa teaching the Chief Executive Officer program. I'll be doing a guest spot tomorrow morning there, and it's a week-long program for chief officers from around the state. He's used that platform to help build our leadership academy and do stuff here. So he's teaching. And then Jordan, as you saw earlier, has our new recruits, and he's running them through the paces today. And he said, "Well, I can get them out early." I said, "No, focus on getting them onboarded. We'll take care of your board meeting stuff." So with that, significant
Good
events.
question. Is there anybody there at Jason's meeting that from the Forest Service?
I can get you the list.
No, that's all right. I
Oh.
raised the question because of Station 5.
Yeah. Oh, for the park.
Yeah.
No, it's a big Fed deal. And so, yeah. And to Sarah's point about the elections, Station 5's momentum will be dependent on the outcome of the elections as well, because how policies and directors change. So,
And Chief, I just have a
Yes.
comment that not only are people getting dropped, but the people that are not getting dropped from their carrier of their home insurance, they're getting raised to pay way more.
Substantial increases.
Substantially.
Yeah. And I think there needs to be, I don't think there's an appropriate national approach. I think regionally states should take it on, should be a state thing. Really anchor into some models that make sense. So we'll see what is to come with that. Significant events this month, just been busy, some complex trauma calls and hike outs, but you know, town has been busier with the weather cooling, and I would imagine the next few weeks are going to be busy as well. Human resource wise, we were unsuccessful with our human resource position, so we sent it back out. The candidates that rose to the top of that process, their employers managed to keep them once they found out they may be leaving. And then the shop, we advertised the mechanics position, and we only got a couple applicants, and neither of them met the criteria we set. So we modified the criteria, and it's back out now. And I want to qualify that. We're not lowering our standards. What we did is because we didn't know what the market had out there, we put out for, there's no equal to Mike, but somebody who has equal calls and experience. And those folks are very sought after, especially in rural Arizona, and there's not a lot of them looking for a job. So what we did is we retooled the position to where they're not hit the ground running with up to and including a ladder truck, but they may be able to work on most of the rest of our fleet and learn the other stuff. So we'll see how that goes. And then the IT position, again, sorted through quite a few candidates. So we didn't find one that fit the bill. So we're reopening it and rescreening some of the applicants. And while we want these positions in last July, we're not going to rush to just get somebody in here. We want to make sure that they're ready. And the one comforting thing that I found is we are getting a lot more for our support staff positions, a lot more regionally interested folks, which is important to me because, you know, we've lost so many candidates in the past once they get here or start to really look once they see the cost of living and they're like, oh, I can't move. And so having folks that are within an hour of our district is promising, qualified candidates. And then Promotions, we haven't had any this month. However, we have started work and we're developing the captain's test for February of this year, February, March timeframe. And we did push back, there was a want to push up that testing process because we had a few surprise captains retire. But over a decade ago, we advertised to our people that we would have a testing cycle, and people planned their lives around being prepared for those tests. And we decided that moving up the test would disclude a lot of folks that had it on their career radar. And there was some arguments, well, they should be prepared early. Well, no, we gave them a target and they balanced work and life to be prepared when the test was supposed to happen. And so it's happening in a few months, and we're going to probably see 2 to 3 captains promotions out of the mix, and then a whole bunch of movement. So
Chief, I have a question.
Yes.
Just if you could say a little words about that testing process, like how many, is it 1 day, 3 days? What is a bit of the process there?
Typically, generally speaking, in the past, it's been 2 to 3 days. They'll have a written test, and they have 3 or 4 books that are reading material, and they have a written test on that reading material. And then they'll have a scenario-based exercise where they manage a complex incident. We'll throw in a very complex personnel matter that's at a captain's level that they have to manage and know how to navigate policy. We throw what's called an in-out box at them. And in the captain's job, they'll get to work, and there's 5 emails from the chief and the battalion chief and CRR. Hey, you got to be at the school at 11 for this. The guy's coming to measure the new firefighters for their gear at 10:55. And then somebody stopped by and is complaining, and they're with a news crew. And so they're all real items, but never do they happen all at one time. But we compress the want to see how they manage stuff and use their resources. And then, of course, they'll have an oral interview with a panel of peers, and we'll bring in outside battalion chiefs to kind of rate our folks. And then they'll have an internal interview panel with the chief officers here. And that one's more generally, I'm not going to give away all the secrets for this test, but that one is generally anchored into organizational philosophy and their thoughts on how they will manage supporting organizational philosophy. And then we might throw a couple other ringers in there for the heck of it, but there's a lot of stuff.
Thank you. It's interesting to hear some of the details.
Well, it's truly, and for those, it's truly the position in the fire service where you enter management. And, but it's sometimes an awkward position because while you're now in management, you're also still on the truck with the crews. And so it's, in fact, there's dozens of books written about it. One of them is called Buddy to Boss. And so it's a position we haven't prepared people for as well in the past as we are hoping to do now. So.
Thank you.
And in administration, just all over the place. Processes, just tightening up processes for credit card usage and fuel card usage and updating policies and procedures. And we're going to lock Kim in a room to scan 450,000 documents to get all of to meet all the regulatory requirements. And just staying busy. Next slide. Dory.
Slides that I can see here in front of me. Notable events. So as everybody knows, the Uptown parking garage continues. We probably have 5 more blasts left until we're done with that portion of the project because they're reaching the depths in which everything will be done through excavators at that point. But and then the real work starts. Of McCarthy is the contractor that was awarded the actual occupancy construction, if you will, of the entire parking garage. Last month, we did 2 car seat installations and 2 fire extinguisher training events, as well as this past week hosting the first annual Community Risk Reduction Conference. That was a collaboration between the Arizona Fire Marshals Association and the Arizona Fire and Burn Educators Association. We had over 50 attendees throughout the entire week that was here, to include the pre-conference. So we've got a survey out now to kind of do a pulse check on how the conference went, but also to figure out, to get feedback on the facilities for hosting events such as that here in Sedona, since it sounds like it's been quite a while since we've had conferences of that size here.
Was it actually here or was it at a hotel here in town?
Here.
It was here. So upstairs we had the plenary sessions, and then down here we had for kind of the food portions of it. But we did have a host hotel at the Best Western in Uptown. And then Sedona Beer Company was nice enough to host the reception for us with sponsors from around the country supporting the event as well.
Well, I have to say, had the opportunity to be part of the second day, and everything I heard from the attendees and people I talked to, it was great. So my congratulations to you and your team and to the folks who pulled it together. I think it was a really good event, and I was hearing people say, we need to do this more. And so good job.
Thank you. Fire Prevention Week was also last week, so most of our time was consumed with the conference, but there were some activities throughout. The key one of the week was the closeout of the smoke alarm walk at Sedona Shadows Communities resident or mobile home park community. And let me pull up the numbers real quick from that. So in all, we were able to reach 18 homes in Sedona Shadows, installing 66 smoke alarms, 9 rescue retrievers, and we're able to reach 31 residents. So we were unable, because of time and volunteer shortages, to reach 7 units, but they have been put in contact with the Red Cross to be able to have them come out and do smoke alarm installations for them as well. So again, big thank you to the volunteers that did come out, and Chairperson McNeil was happy to stop out, so I'll let her talk about her ventures a little bit later or whenever you're ready, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. I'll talk later.
And Burn Foundation has always been a great partner with us. Them and the Red Cross provide all of the smoke alarms and the equipment to install the smoke alarm for us. So again, a great community event. And then we also had Wings and Wheels at the airport, where Kirk was up there with the ladder providing public education and outreach for that event. Conducted 3 fire investigations. One was here in district from a linseed oil left on some fencing. Brian, my inspector, was able to go down and help Scottsdale do a large-scale fire investigation on their most recent wildland fire down there. And Kirk went and helped out at the a trailer fire in Verde Valley or Copper Canyon. Let's see. From inspections perspective, 191 inspections. 101 inspections, 97 of them first, 4 re-inspections, and then we also did about 40 plan reviews and different occupancies throughout. Next big upcoming event is Trunk or Treat on the 31st in the Uptown with our haunted Ambo. We'll be up there. So thank you.
It's gonna be spooky.
Yes.
Could you say just a little more, but what is?
So each year, the city of Sedona sponsors a trunk or treat event. So, and it's uptown. So we participate by decorating an ambulance as a haunted ambulance. And Carla, Kim, Heidi, Stephanie, I think there's quite a few people that help decorate it and put it together. Kirk and Matt, yeah.
They do a nice job.
But then the kids come by and can go through the ambulance, and they get glow sticks for safety and some other information as we have it available. Great. This year's safety message is fireplace and chimney safety. As it's getting cooler, we're starting to see a lot more people using their chimneys, fireplaces, outdoor fire pits. So making sure that before you really start using it, having someone that's qualified to come out and clean the flue spaces, removing the creosote, because as that builds up over time, you can actually end up with a fire in your chimney. Um, Using tempered glass or metal screens to keep the sparks inside. So your spark arresters on the top, and then also inside your home, having those screens and tempered glass around it. Place your ashes inside of a metal can with a lid, but make sure they're at least 50 feet away from your home and structures and other things that can burn. Adding water to it until your ashes are completely cooled out before you dump them out somewhere. That helps prevent fires from spreading also. That's all I have, pending any questions.
Questions? No. Thank you. Chief?
All right. We're working on it. Fig out. Buzz. Fleet, our 2 new engines are sitting in Phoenix at Hughes Fire Equipment. I went and saw them last Thursday and tried to poke the bear, and they'll get here when they get here, was what I was told. They've got a few quality control things they need to get done. And then they will get up here. I will say there was probably at least $8 million worth of fire trucks sitting in that parking lot. So business is good. No, and that there's a picture of it right back there. That's what you get when you buy an engine from them is, and they're both identical engines. And so they sent us 2 photos, and Stephanie and I did what 5 things are different between these 2 photos to see if they just gave us the copy of the same one. And the tires are rotated and there's clouds in one and not in the other. So they did in fact take pictures of both apparatus. So, but you cannot tell them apart. And then our Type 6 engine is in Boise, and
I'll take it.
we will go up and inspect it and get it down here soon. I did neglect to mention in Coyle's report, we do have 2 people in North Carolina right now, and it is the same response model as for wildfire and for revenue generation. However, it's a FEMA launch, and they're out there assisting FEMA with the Type 1 team, and it's kind of been all over the place. So, and they're doing well. They're supporting medical operations out there. It's Battalion Chief Miranda and then Engineer Brent Johnson. Yes, sir.
With the addition of these 2 new engines coming when they come, how does that reflect on our reserve fleet? Age-wise, numbers-wise, and where do we put them?
So the plan, they're intended to go to Station 4 and Station 6. Station 4's engine is 25 years old, and Station 6's engine is 22 years old. And the 22-year-old is still a puppy, so it's probably going to go to reserve fleet. We're making some, so we'll have those 2, and we have an additional reserve engine. Mike's, we haven't landed which ones we're going to keep yet, because there's a couple different models of valves, and one of the trucks has, one of the newer of the 3 has valves that are more difficult to obtain now. So he's looking at the totality of it. It may have lower miles, but it may be harder to fix if it breaks. So he's evaluating all that right now. And it'll allow us to these 2 apparatus were also built to fit in all of our existing stations, including Station 5. So if we have to take Station 5 out of service for something, it's going to allow us to reduce our fleet by a couple, and still have a couple reserves, but we've got a couple trucks that are 25 years old that need to retire. And still, thanks to Mike, mechanically sound, the guys keep them up, but philosophically, this will put all but one of our frontline engines with airbags, modern rollover protection, more of the clean cap concept. And so while a couple of the reserve engines are still in good working order, they're not compliant with modern NFPA standards for safety. And so while they'll be used when needed, we're in a good spot. I'm happy to get these things going.
What is likely to happen? So you cut back 2 engines, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
We'd sell them off. What do
Sell them. There's a couple options. The market for that vintage, I mean, you'll still get a decent amount of money probably around 10,000 for a truck. Or there's always the option to solicit local programs and see if anybody's in need. Like I know right now, the Valley Academy for Career and Technical Education in Cottonwood is looking to acquire a reserve engine that Copper Canyon is getting rid of, and it's about the same age as ours, and they placed the value at 7,500. So that's another option, and we'll explore that. We'll look around and see if there's a college program that could use a truck, and because if we're gonna make 1,000 more to sell it, it's gonna cost $1,000 to have somebody put it up and get it sold. And so if we could help a school, IT telecom, Bob's two folks, the two radio techs are cranking. Every week they're integrating into more things, working on getting some tower training for them so they can start climbing our towers and getting more integrated with that. The network upgrade is ongoing, and I mean, you see it just here in Station 1, our Wi-Fi connectivity has improved tenfold, and that's happening at all the stations because everything's Wi-Fi and everything's Bluetooth, and our system is modernizing to support it, and continuing to work with Scott, the project manager, on identifying and preparing to install the infrastructure stuff for the radio upgrade. So, and Bob's been busy. GIS. Oh, he wasn't here. Spinelli's continuing to do a ton of mapping. He's City of Sedona's got a new GIS person he's working with, who's an old GIS person. He used to be a volunteer with Sedona Fire, and so we already have some pretty pre-established relationships, and so they're going to be able to do a lot of good stuff. And he's just been helping with the dashboard and just doing a lot of mapping. We talked about it last month with Buzz and working on I have a lot of anxiety about our current state of our district boundaries and our PSAP boundaries and our CON boundaries. And then there's another random acronym that identifies us as having even another boundary. So it's kind of come priority to what we can control. And it boils down to when districts and CONs were formed, we didn't have the technology we do today. So it was more archaic mapping. So we're working to align all of those because while it meets the needs of our community, the uncertainty of growth out 89A and out the 525 road in Sycamore Canyon, we need to be prepared to present to you all, whether or not you would want to acquire those regions of northern Arizona, because while they're 3, 4, 5 houses now, if they're going to be 5,000 homes, is that something we want to take on or let another? So having those maps aligned properly is important. And then EMS, he talked about the CON getting renewed. We're doing a bunch of training. He's talking to John King about aligning some of our training with more of our data-driven stuff. The way the medical training works is we've got the national and state required training that we have to do, and trying to avoid making those check boxes. And some of it's pretty basic, but we're really wanting to align our EMS training with what we actually do, meeting the national and state standards, so that we the guys seem to get more value out of it. And then continuing to work with the hospital. There's a lot of swirl, as some of you may know. The hospital has been engaging in the community more than ever, and kind of Buzz and I's conversation is he's constantly seeking out opportunities as they come up to engage the hospital. And it may involve us teaching for them or getting involved with them more, but I think it'll pay dividends to the community because we'll get a better package out of the deal, for the totality of our healthcare. And then peer support, we've got our peer support lead, John Scaife, and the system is such that when there's a peer support need, he gets the phone call. Well, we didn't like the fact that he's always the guy that gets the phone call. So Captain Eberline stepped in, and he's going to be a secondary contact so that they have some relief, and that they're not always on the hook, if you will. Buzz was very involved this month, helping coordinate the honor guard activity for firefighter Gage and with Copper Canyon. And we offered a lot of peer support services for that, and everything worked really well. Start moving on counseling, engaged with the Copper Canyon folks, and did kind of provided a lot of the same products that they've been working with us on. So all feedback is that it was beneficial to the crews. So, and then, all right, next slide. All right, Jordan, I'm going to mess up the hours, but evaluated 7 of our recruit firefighters getting off probation, and it's a 12-month eval. It's a written test and a series of skills tests, and it was about 5 hours per person to get them all through it. So it burned a week just to get that done, and then he had a 1-day break and then started the new hire academy this week. So we've got updated our battalion chief's task book, and what that means is we've got these books of tasks for a position, and we hadn't updated the battalion chief task book in a while because it was important, but it was backburnered because we didn't have a lot of people interested in being a battalion chief. So it was noted that we needed to update it, and updating meaning some of the software instructions referenced, we no longer utilize those softwares or staffing programs, or state laws changed in certain areas. So ultimately he got that updated with Chief Coyle, and now we've got 7 folks that have initiated a battalion chief task book. So while all of them have clearly expressed they have no interest in the position, they say maybe in a few years as I work on this book, I will become interested. Leadership Academy, we talked about that, 10 people, and that was geared towards up and coming company officers or captains, and a lot of really good feedback on that. But beyond that, we're doing a survey to really get some anonymous feedback from the folks on what we can change or make better. Did our blue card training, which I'm over explaining stuff for you, the benefit of you folks as well. But the blue card training, it's a systematic approach to reporting what you see when you get to an emergency incident, primarily fire events. And it's so that the 2-year firefighter to the 20-year captain uses the same language when they're talking over the radio to describe the same things, so that dispatch and all our crews can start painting that mental picture en route to the incident. And it sounds simple, but one guy could say there's a big thing on fire, and that doesn't help anybody understand what that means. But if you say I have a medium-sized commercial structure, single story fire on the alpha side, then that starts painting a picture of the incident. So it's a program that helps us kind of clarify what we're saying and how we say it. I talked about the orientation. We've got aircraft familiarization in November. That's when we get to see all the cool aircraft up at the airport that guys build in their garages, and it's pretty neat. I didn't realize what was out there. Our drivers training is scheduled. That's all operational staff, helps with our insurance and helps keep us safe. And then we have a battalion live fire in December. That's a big lift because we've got to rotate crews to Cottonwood and light the building on fire and get all that going. We just had 3 more folks go through the NFP training required to host a live fire. And so this will get them their hours to be our new trainers. And then getting done with our OSHA training for now, but OSHA's just released some new asks. And so we're working on navigating how we're going to implement them next year. A lot of them are driven by policy and procedural changes and adherence to said policies and procedures. So that's going to be our winter project. We had a captain on light duty starting to work on he's a very smart guy, built one of our software programs for tracking our apparatus. And he started diving into our policy stuff. And he says, guys better saddle up and assign somebody this for about 18 months to get it done. So we've recognized what we thought was the complexity wasn't accurate. It's going to be much more lift, but we're tackling it. Again, a couple more members on the wellness committee. We've got a gentleman, Mark Feeney, putting out a quarterly newsletter to the folks, some tips and tricks to stay healthy. And then gym modifications, that's been a low to no cost effort, and it's essentially driven by some different bracketing and things to keep our equipment off the floor to reduce slips, trips, and falls. Me being on the work comp board for Securus, I was shocked by around the state how many incidents were in the gym or physical fitness. So I started diving deeper, and a lot of them are just clutter and stuff getting in the way. So next slide. All right, and then again, there's a plug for the basketball game coming up on October 26th, and it's police versus fire. It's usually pretty good fun because the cops think they're good, and we usually have some ringers in there. All right, here's the monthly call summary. Again, trending for this year. Call volume's picking up. I think we're going to end up right where we were last year. This is the way we're seeing an uptick in calls. We're seeming to get busier this past few weeks. And there we go, response by station. And then again, the blue is calls in still district, and that's for example, the station 3 in the village had 123 calls in its still district, which is station 3's area of the village. And then why that other number in Pan is 144 is those are calls where they either went to assist Copper Canyon or Verde Valley, or they came up to station 6 or station 4's area. So their still district is their first due, or their area they serve. And station 5's coming down more this time of year, and then station 6 has been kind of staying at home. Next slide. So year over year, up top's 24 and below is 23. You see the dispatch times. I mean, these numbers with a plus or minus 5% variance, these numbers are staying pretty flat. The one thing I did notice is it's what it is. And again, I'm working on a way to further break these down, because the median total response time, that's great. That meets national standard, but I'd like to break it down further and kind of look at, if we took out some of our more lengthy calls out to some of our rural areas, what that would do to the response time.
That could be very good.
Yeah, and it's just aggregating out, we sent a few people to the conference this year to better understand the software, because they call it updating their data analytics. They just made it hard now. I used to be able to filter it really easy. Like I could do it really easy. And now I have to fumble through it because they made it easier. And ultimately with the training, their new analytics software lets you drill down to some very specific sets of data, but it's much harder to farm it now. So,
but yet it would be very useful.
And
It would
that's,
show more what we actually do.
yeah, and that's something I was thinking about is we could talk about our primary call types and then talk about how we're responding to them, and then maybe switch it up so that it's our number one call is always going to be false. That's our number one call year over year in perpetuity. Sedona's vortexes create a huge amount of gravity, and our residents fall. And when I say fall, it's not out on the trails, but they do that, but a ton of falls around the home, and that's our top call. And then those ones get in the weeds because we're working on better data management for those, because some folks may fall and call 911, but then when we get there, they just need help up. So then it changes it to what's called a special duty, but it's still a fall, but it may fall off the data if they are injured and we transport them to the hospital. So a fall isn't just a fall in our data. So you gotta break it up.
It would be interesting though to see that the calls broken out.
Yeah, and that's what we're working on, trying to figure out a way to do it. And then it further breaks it up. If you call 911 for a fall, it's tracked one way, but if somebody, a bystander calls and you didn't want them to call, it's still a fall, but they didn't want you there. So falls land in a few different categories just by the nature of what their disposition is at the end. So I wish it was simple. And if we did it by dispatch, a fall is a fall, but, oh, I didn't fall, I tripped. And then people like to use different words. You can go. So 3 POs over 10K, Zebrascapes Landscaping, here at Station 1. If you haven't had a chance to look at the station, it now exposed all the stucco and paint chipping. And then First Arriving, which is the dashboard software and some other products, and Synchro MSP, which is an annual fee we pay for that software. It's remote monitoring stuff for IT, but all budgeted and planned expenses. Next.
Did you want to ask about, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Out front, it looks like we have a new dry bed for the water to come out from the
Yes,
building and funnel down.
yes.
Is it going to funnel over the sidewalk and into the parking area, or is there a well or a French drain or something to divert the water throughout the property?
So across our campus, I think there's 3 or 4 new. They're not new. They were hidden by years of landscape overgrowth or destroyed over years of just weather. And so all of the existing drainages you see that look pretty and look like drainages now were there before and part of the intended plan. I'd have to look at that one specifically.
It's right up.
Yeah, I know the one on the other side of the building, we had to core drill the existing wall and install new piping because when designed, it was a design error over on that side. So the wall is heaving because the water was collecting. So I'll look at this one. I'm not sure. I don't believe it goes across the sidewalk. I think there's a drain,
That would be good if there was some
Yeah.
sort of,
but I'll double check.
thank you. Thank you.
And then lots of thank yous. That's cute.
It's cute.
It's colorful. Reno, yeah, from Reno. When Coil was up there, just outside of Reno, it was a fast moving fire that burned a lot of homes and then it settled down quick and. All right, and I think that should be about it. Move on to the next.
I think this is still back to you.
So station responsible person. So this would be item E.
Yes.
All right, so before you have the board action communication and 3 quotes for the final piece of the Station 1 maintenance and repair fall 2024, and this is the paint quote. We did receive 3 quotes, and the one we landed on is under the $50,000 threshold for board approval, but because it's under by $1,000 and some of the quotes for this job came in well over the fire chief's threshold, I wanted to bring it to the board after consult with Helen. And essentially we got 3 quotes in the mid 30s, mid about $75,000, and then this one came in at 49. Looking at the scope of work, the detail of the bid and the quote, and the reputation of the company and the products they're using for the ceiling medium and everything else, we're recommending approval of the mid-range quote of $49,000 when Canyon Painting for the ceiling of the block and essentially everything that's blue outside will be a burnt red color, and all of the block, it's too bad in this room, but a lot of the surfaces in the station, the block has been compromised and the water leaches through, and you'll see lime deposits on the inside of the walls. And it was explained to us that this block, while a nice looking construction material, needs to be sealed every 5 years, and it hasn't ever been sealed.
Hmm.
So we thought we ought to seal it. So that is the purpose for this board action communication, is to seek approval for canyon painting in the amount of 49,000 for paint and sealing of the fire station.
So the questions for the chief, any questions on this?
Not a question, but already just it's looking pretty good out there.
And that's, I agree with you. And I mean, this is our, if we're going to increase conference visitorship and we're going to get back to this being the public space it was designed to be. And frankly, if we're going to have this building operable for the next 40, 50 years, like there's maintenance costs, at the station design conference. It shocked me till I started thinking about it further, but 60% of a fire station's cost is maintenance and repair over its lifetime. So only 40% of the station cost is actually constructing it. So that was one of the impetuses is for us contracting with a project manager is to really evaluate our current infrastructure and prepare us for the future infrastructure and make sure that we make a big shiny thing over here while this thing's crumbling down. We can't do that. We have to maintain the totality of our district. So, and I think it does look great.
I agree.
It looks presentable and professional.
I have, on the landscaping by the dry ditches, is there going to be bushes or something on each side? So it's not like just the dry.
We have decided to get everything complete and just let it marinate for a while and just let everybody see how it looks. And then in a year, all the irrigation piping and everything's in. So if we want to add some landscape material, I would like it to be more of a xeriscape product that is low to no water needs and fits our local landscape, because when they built this station, they went to the nursery and bought what looked pretty. And we had to manage that. So I'm not opposed to adding vegetation. It is a really good example of Firewise, but ultimately we wanted to get all of the repairs done so we can see what it looks like before we add anything.
Okay. Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a reminder, if the bid goes through, to add whatever portions of the small contract addendum 3511 non-appropriation this time that you think is appropriate.
Okay, so
Just quickly, the three bids.
Mhm.
We're at 21,500, 49, and 75,400. Is that what those were?
So 37, and then there's 2 canyon bids to a total of 49,000, and then there's the bid from the third company for 75,000.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the canyon is just the reputation of the company, the detail of the bid, the down to the products, just evaluating brand and type of product they're using.
They gave nice bids too. It was thorough.
Yes, it's very thorough.
okay.
Thank you.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the BAC for paint and seal for Station 1 for the amount not to exceed 49,000 with Canyon Painting.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Thank you.
Okay. Discussion and possible action item, the final review and possible vote to approve several things. All of you have received from me over the last month a copy of the draft of the governing board handbook. And I know that you read this thoroughly, probably preferably before you went to bed. I would like to number one, make sure that there's some specific feedback, if there is any, on certain things. Number one, we need in the fire board handbook there is a change to the vision, which is on, hang on a second, it is on,
You don't have it memorized?
you'd think I would, yeah. It's on page 10. And the original vision that has been in use up till now and for the previous strategic plan was that the Sedona Fire District would be a community leader in emergency services, making our district one of the safest places in the world to live, work, and explore. When we met, first, so I'm the instigator. I'd like to remove the word community. I'd like us to be a leader, not just a leader in the community, but a leader statewide and nationally, because we have people who are leaders. We had one of the first meetings of the strategic planning group, and we posed the question to that group if they were okay with it. I'd like to pose to this group, are you okay with getting rid of the word community from the vision? Any issues, concerns?
I think I'm very comfortable with it because not only for the reason you're stating, but because I believe the word district is in there towards the end of that mission statement. So we do at least reference the district.
You know, I just like to add that the community leader in a state of an emergency, generally speaking, without doubt, the fire service is that lead agency that takes control of that emergency, and all others surround that and go with the game plan. That includes law enforcement. That includes other utilities to seek, you know, the safe resolution of that incident. So I am fine with the fact that they will be a leader and drop the community.
Okay, great. Any other feedback? Okay, that's the first thing in the handbook.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. You don't want to leave anybody out.
The next thing in the handbook that we need to look at, because everything, just for background, the rest of the material in here pretty much is what has been in existence. And we simply went in and made some reorganizing and some updating. So that's why we need to do these few changes. The second thing is under the rules of procedure, which is procedure here, which would be on page 32. There was some language there about how the Rule 19, which actually began on page 31, had been amended in the past. And we took that language out because it seemed inappropriate to reference an amendment that was old. And the other thing that we did is we removed details relating to the board members' use of SFD vehicles and details of the unauthorized expenses, and we replaced this with references in a reference to the travel policy. And removing the reference to the use of SFD vehicles, I think that's from previous times, but I can't imagine at this point one of our board members taking an SFD vehicle. It would be fun to go for a ride in the truck, but I don't think so. So I don't think that we need to have that language there. Are there any concerns about any of that? Okay.
I'd like to add on Rule 19, if I'm not mistaken, the language you took out dealt primarily with the fact that there potentially was going to be more than one vacancy. The ability to create a list, if you will, so that you don't have to go through the selection process twice. You just take the next name coming down is what that made reference to. And as long as you know that we can do that, taking that language out, it's fine.
I didn't take that language out. That language was not in there. It was said, what it said, and I could pull it, is that it was amended, temporarily amended by the board to allow the current slate of board candidates to remain in effect until the end of 2015.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. you're taking that language out, just know that that language can, in effect, go back in if that situation comes up again.
Right. but-
Right,
yeah,
so that's
okay.
fine, yeah.
All right. Okay. Lastly, for the board handbook piece of this, because we'll go on and do the policies in just a minute. I want to separate the policy piece out. Is there any feedback, corrections, things like that that you see that you want to make to the handbook?
The handbook,
Yes.
yes. Okay, first of all, I have some typos, some simple things as typos, but then I also have something, okay, on page 28, it's as simple as a typo. On C, voting, expect on line 3, under voting C, it says taken by voice, except that at the request. I don't think that belongs. Except at the request.
Okay, yes.
Take out that, I mean that. So that's one typo that I found.
Great.
And then, oh, and then the other ones are in the policies.
Okay, so let's look at the policy piece and we'll do this.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just one other
Yeah.
thing that's still in the,
Yeah.
on page 16, on additional duties and guidance, it says board vacancies shall be filled as specified in state law in accordance with the general guidance described in this policy. Since it's additional duties that it says this, why can't this be in with page 15, number 9, where it actually is talking about what we may and may not do? Why can't it be in with that instead of separate?
Fine. Yeah, it's a good catch. Okay. Corrections, changes?
I don't have any, no.
All right, then let's move to the policy section.
Section number,
That's section 4.
thank you, I'm there.
What
So,
page is that?
that's
It's actually tab number.
tab 4. It will be page 34, but the policies are separate. They're not in the same file.
Okay.
Policies are by number.
Policy number. Yeah.
Yeah.
Numbers in order that way.
This is the stuff we'll get from you.
So any feedback on the policies? I think we've been through them before. The only one that we haven't been through is the travel policy,
Okay,
and that's new. So I just wanted to make sure that there's any feedback on that.
I have feedback, no one else is gonna go.
Go for it.
Okay, just as simple as this, the headings on the policies. They're in blue, which is nice, but I think they should be a little larger. That was the old format, and it was easier to just locate them when it was a little larger. And then I have some typos.
Okay, let's,
Okay, let's see, policy 2403. 2403. So it's as simple as a parentheses by the ARS, the third line down.
yeah, I've got that one. Yes.
Okay, the parentheses the wrong way.
While we're on that policy, I have a question actually about item 9. Do you have the policy? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I can wing it.
Well, we references courtesy introduction to ASEA and the local 3690 labor groups and the fire chief, but it is listed as it's after all the other points. It's the last point, and I thought the intention was that that happened before the appointment of the candidate.
Say it again.
Okay.
You
We
want me
do
to
a courtesy introduction to the two labor groups. Okay, and the way it appears here is like it's after the fact. It's the last thing. And my understanding was that practice was that the courtesy introduction took place before the appointment of the successful candidate. If it takes place after the appointment of the successful candidate, the courtesy introduction is kind of meaningless.
Yeah, the good news is that's not a legal issue. You can go either way as a matter of law. But your point, I think, is a best practice one.
The reason why it's there at number 9,
Mhm.
because it never existed before. And it only came into fruition as a result of them wanting to fill
Okay.
part of the process. The fact that it's last doesn't mean that it is last in the order of references as it is here. But it is exactly as you said. It's supposed to be before so that they're part of the process.
Okay.
So whether or not we want to move it further up is just a matter of moving it up.
It seems logical though to move it up.
Move it up?
Yeah.
Put it in a,
As to where exactly on here, geez,
Somewhere between 4 and 5, I think.
anywhere above, but number 9, I guess.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
great. All right, sorry, Janet, I honed in on your,
no, that was good. Okay, and mine are just minor corrections, but since this is only a,
the draft.
a draft, might as well make the final all the way correct. Okay, so policy 2024-04, down by guidelines, the first line, selecting and attorney, it should be an, A-N, not the
Yep.
D. Okay,
Can I get, are you still going?
what? No, go. Jump
Okay.
in.
I had a question as to the selection process. In the prior discussion here, number 8, which is right above the courtesy introduction that we just discussed a minute ago,
Yeah.
second ago. And it's more of a clarification from legal here. It says, number 8 here says, a board member who is vacating their office shall remain on the board until the replacement is found.
I meant to bring that up too, yeah.
If required by law in that event, said board members shall be eligible to participate in the process as appropriate. If a board member wants to vacate their position because they're moving, because they're no longer interested in this position, you're saying that they have to remain on the board until a person is found?
No, and I thought I had modified that. I don't see.
That's come up before.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so the law says that a board member is obliged to remain in their position if their vacancy occurs by reason of the natural expiration of their term. If they leave because they move out of state, get convicted of a felony, die, there's lots of reasons that that rule doesn't apply. It only applies to those board members whose term has expired.
Mhm.
So let's say no one ran for your office and your term expired in November.
Mhm.
You would be obliged to continue to serve in that capacity until the board filled your vacancy.
Okay.
But if you left town, all bets are off.
Okay, so how, you mentioned you thought you modified that, so
I
there is.
remember seeing that and did tweak it. I don't have it in front of me, so it's hard for me to,
But it does say if required by law.
yeah, and maybe that's why we left it that way. Because it's only required by law in one circumstance, which is termination, expiration of your term.
Which is what you and I were running into.
So then it should remain then.
I don't have it in front of me.
Right.
But if it's qualified in the way that Helen has just suggested, I think it can remain.
Okay.
There's only one reason why the law requires that you remain, and that is upon expiration of your term.
Okay.
And I'm glad to take another look at it, but I think that was the gist of it when I saw it. And if this reflects the changes I made, then that's why I left it the way it is because it's qualified by if required by law.
Okay, so if I did not have a person take this spot from me in November or December,
You'd be obliged to stay.
then I'd be obliged to stay. And then does that fall into the 60 days the board has to find a replacement, and if they don't, the 90 days for the county to find a replacement?
Mhm.
Okay,
Right, that's why number 8 should be worded more
so then
thoroughly.
we should leave it.
It's actually 90-60, I think, but
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Leave it, but word it more thoroughly than what it is.
Well, just based on what he said, I think it probably should remain in there, right? Is that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
remain in there, but add more verbiage to clarify it better.
To clarify that it just pertains to somebody who is termed out.
Yes, and about it was 90 days? 'Cause I thought it was
That's all in
60.
statute. And then
Yeah.
one of the objectives was to not be redundant with the
Yeah.
handbook and
Okay.
quote statute in the handbook.
Oh, all right, because it's in the statute. Okay. Then maybe you could put in there, just refer to.
The provision that speaks about 90 days is in the vacancy portion of your policy.
Right.
Yes, I do remember seeing it in there somewhere else. Okay.
now, and I don't know if you'd even want to reference that other that talks about how to proceed,
Yeah, that's what I think. At least put a reference in there.
right? Reference,
But that, the reference is actually in the rules of procedure.
right, so still, even though it's before, it probably should say reference, Rule 19 or whatever it is.
Okay.
Just make reference, because that kind of ties the whole thing together.
Mm-hmm.
All right, other corrections or feedback.
Okay, we did the and 2406.
Here's it down here on this end.
Oh, sorry. Do you really want to?
Yes.
Oh, again, it's just the labeling on the headings, if they would be larger. Oh, but on the policy 2024-06, on page 3 of it, it's not labeled on top. And if it should get separated, then you don't know what policy it goes to. So label that as well.
Good.
Because sometimes
Page.
I have dropped the book and it's on coup and you need to put it back together
It
again.
goes on from
Great.
the letters. You have to follow the letters.
Yeah, that's another one that's coming up. That's what I was just gonna say. On 2024-08, again, the third page isn't labeled. And the
408.
letter category is incorrect once it hits page 3. J should be I, K should be J, L should be K, and M should be L. Because by accident, the H didn't get carried over, it got headed on its own thing, and that's not correct.
H, yes, but this is a continuation of
Right,
H.
so it shouldn't be an
Yeah.
H. It shouldn't be an H there.
Sharpshooters. You know, if I may, Chair, for our new members out here, what we're going over here is accumulation of various books and various dates of old policies, procedures, and rules that has tested us time and time again as to which is the most current document. And for the 9 years I've been on board, it was all over the place, and we've had various employees coming through here, administrative, trying to figure this out. So we've, in an update attempt to create but one book that has all these things and they're all correct and up to date, is what we're putting the finishing touches on now. So although maybe this is boring kind of thing, this is directly reflected into what your responsibilities will be.
We're doing this for you, in short.
Yeah.
And it gets referred to.
So bear with us and
Fine.
hopefully the latter part will go by pretty doggone quick.
And there's a lot that's happened that has gotten, especially through our chair. Helen, a lot has happened to organize this and bring update
Mhm.
and
It was
remove
definitely
things that are
time.
no longer pertinent, so a lot has gone into it.
Mhm.
This is the final touches.
Mhm.
Any other corrections, Janet?
Yeah, sorry, that's because it is the final touches. I'm just adding in all these little things. On 2024-09, under D, third line, oh, okay, start at the second line. When not governing board members are available, it should be when governing board members are not available.
Well, second sentence,
Under D,
when not, yeah, that would,
okay, the not's in the wrong spot.
I think it's a different page.
yeah, that's just.
It's 2409
Yes, I'm looking at 2409.
and D.
There you go.
Oh, that D, all right.
Oh, sorry, was there
Okay.
more than one D on that? Oh, there was.
Should go.
Yeah. Are not, yeah, thank you.
Signals.
Okay,
Yep.
the little typo. Back on the page that you thought we should be on, the set, turn it over. And emergency purchases,
Mhm.
it should be all, not tall. That's on the second line.
Supersede.
And then the third page to that again needs a heading. Sorry about all these little minute things,
You're
but,
doing
Oh,
great.
it's great.
and
Thank you.
then one more. Oh, but this is under the resolution, so I won't go there then. Not up for that.
Probably on top of this.
I think the resolution is set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Okay.
Any other corrections?
I just have an overall one in terms of our tabs. To the degree they can be more specific to the section they refer to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why they are the way they are.
Okay.
It's hard,
Okay.
it's hard to, it's hard.
Okay, we'll see what we can do. Okay.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
On an addendum attachment addendum, Article 11. It's on the first page, it says, when changes to policies or portions of this MOU occur, the unit members executive board. What is the executive board?
Unit members, executive board references, local 3690's executive board or ASEA's representatives.
Okay, all right, so it's
Is that
more to
The
do
unit,
with
the unit,
unions
the
and-
units,
okay,
the bargaining unit, they're
The board of the MOUs.
yeah,
bargaining
okay,
units.
alrighty, just,
Each bargaining unit has their own MOU, so.
okay, when I was reading that, I just didn't know what that meant. And I know I read it the first time, because I think it has the same language, but I caught it this time. Okay,
So at this point, and I'm going to make a motion unless anyone has any other corrections.
sorry.
No. Thank you for the detailed look. I appreciate it. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the fire board handbook, the changes that were made to the rules of procedure, the fire board policies, and would like a second,
As presented, you mean?
as presented.
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
that.
Aye. Opposed? It's passed.
Nice work, folks.
If I may. This was a book, long time coming, and it was a lot of work by previous boards, current board in different positions, staff, and it is a book that you will reference time and time again, primarily new members, but even the
Existing.
tenured members here that are up here, we still refer to this book. And sometimes we don't have an answer for something, but we refer to legal to give us a hand on that stuff. So, once you do receive your book, you'll have an opportunity to go through it once it's been, updated. Go through it, take the time to go through it, keep it close at hand, and you'll be surprised on how much you'll be diving into that.
And you will get your copies of this at the orientation meeting on the November 12th. So.
And I need you all to leave your binders.
Let's leave the binders.
Bring them back, yeah. If you don't have them, bring them back.
And Kim, I'll need mine for the orientation
Yeah.
training, so I'll need it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'll have to update
Mhm.
them with all this.
And I've got, I think, all the changes on mine. I'll make sure you and I can go through that. So last item on our agenda is a discussion of board members' activities since the last board meeting. And Janet, since you've been so good about getting us through the handbook, with all the changes, you've been working on the handbook. Would you like to fill us in on what you've been doing since the last board meeting?
I was absent for the last board meeting, due to, a death in the family. And, I missed that, and I missed, a lot of the, attending extra things. Just since I've been home, this was the only thing that I knew that was a priority along with, the packet, so that's what I dove into.
Corey?
Yes. Well, it's actually been a busy month. I made a very modest contribution to helping out with the handbook. And of course, meeting with the chief for monthly meeting. Also meeting with the city. We had our first and historic meeting of our SFD board members with the city council to discuss a location for our station, our uptown station, and that was a really interesting meeting. And we're going to have a second one to have follow through on that to see if we can come to some good conclusion about where Station 4 should go. And then just today, the potluck. We had a very lovely potluck organized by our executive secretary and contributed to by all. And it was a nice chance to meet the firefighters who have just made it through their first year and gotten off probation. Am I saying?
First day,
First day.
first hours.
That was their first day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they started this morning.
It was a welcome to them, that potluck.
It was a very, very nice, excuse me, let me
Yeah.
rephrase that.
That's why they were so kind and quiet.
They
Yep.
had they were also very polite, and it was really nice to meet them.
I look forward to officially introducing them to the board and the public next month's meeting.
Okay,
A pretty dynamic group of folks.
yeah.
Scott,
Yes.
what you been up to?
Well, I had one-on-one with Chief Mizulis, and that was after I got back of my first vacation, and and then just pushed through. Attended the funeral service for firefighter Gage. I managed to stay on the track of bill pay. And I have sitting here for another time, but citizens asking things about water pressure on Dry Creek Road.
That's it.
That's it.
Mr. Soto?
I guess that leaves me besides yourself, huh?
Yeah.
Bill pay. You mentioned something about bill pay. You are in for an adventure. Bill pay is something that we are the last authority to sign for our bills to be paid after they've gone through the approval process. And you're going to enjoy that.
There's an app for that.
Seriously, honestly.
It's not bad.
It's not bad at all, but
It's
you'll.
easy.
As far as my involvement, this past month,
Something.
um,
Log in.
as this tenure here on this board comes to an end next month for me, it's opened up new doors on the county level. And I am part of the Yavapai Firewise, which is intimately involved here in Sedona and the other Verde Valley fire districts. And our whole sole purpose is to educate homeowners and how they deal with their properties as it relates to wildfires. To an extent where we even acquire federal granting to assist them in fundraising. So I've been involved in, not fundraising, to assist them in paying for the mastication of hazardous refuse on their property, wildland refuse. But with that, we're also looking at, and it relates to this fire district too, sustainability and strategic plans and how to fundraise, not only on federal grant level, but at the local foundation for the pure sustainability of Yavapai Firewise as an entity. So I've been involved with that quite a bit. And along that, we deal quite a bit with our local fire marshal, Chief Booth. So this coming year, I'll be leaving this board, going towards the chairmanship for that board. So kind of jumping out of the pan into the fire, so to speak. So I've been busy with that and digging up better ways and more ways to raise money for it. We're also involved with the Toys for Tots, like the fire district is here, with an additional group of people I'm with, and that's with a private entity in Harley Davidson. Not that I'm promoting them, I'm just saying they're another group that I'm involved with that are intimately involved with getting back to the community. So yeah, my time is not going to be any less. It'll be just directed sharply, more sharper than the 4 boards that I'm on. So that's all that I have been on, especially additionally to the meeting with the city that we were on, as Corey mentioned, and then which I'm excited to find out where Fire Station 4 is going to go. That'd be nice. So with that said, that's all I've been up to.
And as usual, you've been keeping tabs on everything. I
A
know.
little bit.
Yes. Well, I have been part of the number of the things that you've heard about. A one-on-one went with Scott to the funeral of firefighter Gage. The city meeting, I've been involved with the handbook. We're here for the potluck. Had the pleasure of participating with Chief Booth in the early part of the smoke detector walk as part of a little project that we're working on with the Sedona Humane Society to introduce a thing called rescue retrievers, which are smoke detectors to be placed where your animal is likely to hide in the event of a fire or a crisis. And it doesn't make noise, but it beams a strobe light so that firefighters can more readily know where to search. And so we were pilot testing it at the walk on Saturday. And I'm pleased to say that all of the ones we had were gone, and I owe somebody another one, which is okay. So that's been keeping me busy, and also participating in the strategic planning. There's been a couple of strategic planning meetings that the chief has chaired with folks from across the organization involved, and that's been exciting to be part of that. And as an outgrowth of that, I've gotten involved chatting with, I would say firefighter, but I don't think that's right. I think it's Captain King.
Engineer
King, about online EMS training. And some of you know I have a background in online training, so he and I have been chatting about that. And last but not least, in a real effort to keep up with the former chair and his passion for Firewise, we Firewised our property this past week using the Chief Escape folks. I'm not promoting them either, but we're doing our best to keep up with you, Dave.
If I can help or be of assistance, let me know.
Okay. So unless there's anything else, this meeting is adjourned.